My name is Rosalind Clark, and I'm 32 years old. At my sister Eleanor's engagement party, my father said to the groom's family, "Rosalind? Oh, we don't really mention her, she's a maid." My mother added quietly, "Born to serve, I suppose." I kept my face neutral. I'd learned not to react. But then the groom's mother, a woman in a sharp gray suit, leaned forward and said, "Wait, you're the woman who—" She stopped. The room went completely silent. My father's face turned white, and what she said next would shatter everything my family believed about me. Growing up, our family dinner table had an invisible hierarchy. Eleanor sat on the right side, where the chandelier light caught her debate team trophies on the shelf behind her. I sat on the left, where the light didn't quite reach. It was 2011. I was 14. Eleanor was 18, already accepted to Columbia Law on early decision. "Eleanor is going to argue before the Supreme Court one day," my father said, cutting his steak with surgical precision. He was Dr. Edmund Clark, tenured professor of economics at Tufts University. Everything he did was precise. And Rosalind? Well, maybe trade school? She's good with her hands. My mother, Lillian, retired headmistress of Brookline Academy, a woman who'd spent 40 years teaching children that excellence was the only acceptable standard, smiled tightly. "Not everyone is meant for intellectual pursuits, Edmund. Some people are more practical." Eleanor beamed. I stared at my plate. I didn't hate my sister. I hated what she represented, proof that I'd never be enough. Eleanor played violin. I liked taking apart the bathroom sink to see how the pipes worked. Eleanor won the state debate championship. I got detention for skipping advanced placement English to help the janitor fix the boiler. That's when I realized I'd never be enough for them, so I stopped trying to be. The call came on a Tuesday in October 2014. I was 19, halfway through sophomore year at UMass Amherst, studying business administration because my father had said it was practical enough for someone like you. I hated every class. Marketing theory, corporate finance, strategic management, all of it felt like learning a language I'd never speak. So I called home. "I'm dropping out," I said. Silence on the line. Then my father's voice, cold and measured. "Excuse me? I'm dropping out. I hate it. I'm not learning anything useful." "Useful?" My mother had grabbed the other extension. I could hear her breathing, sharp and angry. "Do you want to embarrass us forever? What will we tell people?" "Tell them I'm figuring it out." "Figuring it out?" My father's voice rose, which almost never happened. "You're throwing your life away. Your sister is at Columbia Law. Do you understand what that means? And you want to be what? A dropout?" "I don't know yet, but I know this isn't it." "If you walk away from that degree," my mother said, her voice shaking, "don't expect us to support you. Not financially, not emotionally. You'll be on your own." "Okay," I said. I hung up. Rain drummed against my dorm window. Half-packed boxes sat on my bed. I had $1,200 in my savings account and no plan. But I had something else. I had certainty that staying would kill something in me I couldn't afford to lose. I moved into a studio apartment in Dorchester with cracks in the ceiling and radiators that clanged all night. They didn't call for 3 months. The Marriott in downtown Boston was hiring. Housekeeping. $13 an hour. I took the job the week after I moved. The work was hard. 14 rooms a day, 6 hours per shift, 5 days a week. Strip beds, scrub toilets, vacuum carpets, restock minibars. Check the laminated checklist. Move to the next room. My supervisor, a woman named Carla, with tired eyes and 3 kids at home, taught me the rhythm. "Fast hands, steady pace," she said. "Don't think, just move." I was good at it. By month 2, I could finish my 14 rooms in 5 hours. I started noticing things. Supply waste. We threw away half-full shampoo bottles because corporate said so. Scheduling chaos. Some days we had 6 people on a floor that needed 3. Other days we had 1 person for a floor that needed 6. broken equipment that no one fixed because maintenance and housekeeping didn't talk. I mentioned it to Carla once. She shrugged. That's hotel life, kid. Nobody listens to the maids. Eleanor found out I was working housekeeping when she came home for Thanksgiving 2015. I wasn't invited to dinner, but she called afterward. Mom and Dad are upset, she said. I figured. They're telling people you're between things. But Aunt Diane asked directly, and Dad said, she paused. He said, we don't mention her. I was standing outside Eleanor's apartment in Cambridge, 3 blocks from her building, holding my phone in the freezing November air. Through her window, I could see her moving around, probably packing for a weekend trip. Rose, are you there? Yeah. I'm sorry. I tried to defend you, but it's fine, Elle. It's not fine. You're my sister. Then why aren't you here? I asked. Silence. Then, I have to go. I realized then I'd become their secret, their shame. Over the next 3 years, 2015 to 2018, I attended maybe 5 family events. Thanksgiving once, Christmas twice, a cousin's wedding, my grandmother's 80th birthday. Each time, the script was the same. At Thanksgiving 2016, my Uncle Paul asked what I was doing. My mother answered before I could. Rosalind's working, cleaning work. We don't mention her much. At my cousin's wedding in 2017, a family friend asked if both daughters were doing well. My father smiled. Eleanor just made junior associate at Wilkins & Gray, top firm in Boston, and Rosalind, well, we don't really mention her. At Christmas 2018, I sat at the kids' table even though I was 23. Eleanor sat at the head table between my parents, her engagement ring, her first engagement, which lasted 6 months, catching the candlelight. My grandmother, Dorothy, a small woman with steel gray hair and sharper eyes, leaned over to me. Why do you let them do this to you? Do what? Erase you. I looked at her. I don't let them. I just don't fight it anymore. She squeezed my hand. You should. I stopped going to Thanksgiving after that. If I was invisible, I'd be invisible on my terms. I kept working at the Marriott, but I also started taking night classes. Facilities management at Bunker Hill Community College, business operations, safety compliance, OSHA certifications, bloodborne pathogen training. I learned about cleaning in a way most people never think about, as engineering, as chemistry, as logistics. At 2 a.m. on a Tuesday in March 2017, I sat in my studio apartment with my laptop open, energy drink cans scattered around me, building a spreadsheet. If I could clean 14 rooms in 5 hours, why did corporate allocate 8 hours? If we threw away $6 worth of supplies per room per day, that was $84 per room per week, nearly $1.2 million annually across the hotel. Who was tracking that? Nobody. I started pitching small offices, just me, a mop, a bucket, and a business card I'd printed at FedEx. Rosalind Clark, reliable cleaning services. 3 said yes. That's when I knew. On my 25th birthday, March 14th, 2018, I filed incorporation paperwork for Sterling Facility Services, LLC. The name came from my middle name, Rosalind Elizabeth Sterling Clark. Sterling felt strong, clean, professional. My first contract was an 8,000 square foot office in Kendall Square, $18,000 a year. I hired 3 part-timers, Carla, who'd quit the Marriott the same week I did, a man named Jerome who'd been laid off from a factory, and a college student named Amy who needed tuition money. I paid them $17 an hour, $4 more than I'd made starting at the Marriott, and promised health insurance after 90 days. Why? Carla asked. Most cleaning companies don't offer benefits. Because I wouldn't work for a company that didn't value me, I said. So I'm not going to build one. I worked 80-hour weeks. I cleaned alongside my team from 6 p.m. to midnight. Then I went home and did payroll, invoicing, client emails, supply ordering, and scheduling until 3 a.m. My apartment smelled like bleach and exhaustion. By the end of year one, I had 12 employees and $220,000 in revenue. My parents thought I was still cleaning hotel rooms. The email came at 9:47 a.m. on a Thursday in January 2022. Subject: RFP, Sanitation Services Contract, Massachusetts General Hospital. I read it 3 times. Mass General was one of the top-ranked hospitals in the country. Their current vendor had failed an infection control audit. They needed a new contractor. The RFP was 40 pages. The contract was worth $1.8 million annually for 3 years. I spent 2 weeks on the proposal. I wrote a 40-page standard operating procedures manual covering surgical wing protocols, infection control, emergency response, and ATP testing schedules. I included crisis flowcharts. I included employee training certifications. I included references from Boston University, where we'd held a contract for 2 years. The interview was with Catherine Ashford, the hospital's chief operating officer. Her office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Boston skyline. She was 58, silver-haired, dressed in a navy suit that probably cost more than my car. She shook my hand firmly and gestured to a chair. "Most vendors promise the moon," she said, flipping through my proposal. "You brought a 40-page SOP manual and a crisis flowchart. Why?" "Because when a surgical wing shuts down, people die," I said. "I don't take shortcuts." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled. "When can you start?" 3 weeks later, I got the call. $1.8 million, 3-year contract, renewable. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my South Boston office and cried for 20 minutes. I didn't tell my parents. Was $12.3 million annually. We held was $12.3 million annually. We held contracts with Massachusetts General Hospital, $1.8 million per year, Boston University, $950,000 per year, 4 financial district office towers, $2.1 million combined, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, $890,000 per year. The Four Seasons. Boston, $780,000 per year. We were ISO 9001 certified. OSHA compliant. We had an emergency response team trained for biohazard cleanup, OR deep cleans, and infection control. My office was 3,200 square feet in South Boston. I had 8 admin staff. On the wall behind my desk were framed contracts, safety certifications, and a photo of every single employee. I still lived in a modest 2-bedroom condo in South Boston. I drove a 4-year-old Honda Civic. I owned 3 suits and rotated them. I attended family events once a year, maybe. My parents still asked Eleanor about me instead of calling directly. In October, Eleanor texted me, "Mom wants to know if you're still at that hotel job. Just tell her something so she stops asking." I didn't reply. Then 2 weeks later, Eleanor called. "I'm engaged," she said. "Congratulations." "Jonathan Ashford. He's a corporate lawyer. We're having an engagement dinner, November 15th. Mom insists you come." I don't think." "Please, Rose, just one dinner. She'll be impossible if you don't show." I almost said no, but I didn't. The Four Seasons. Boston gleamed under November twilight. I'd been inside this building 100 times, but always through the service entrance at 5 a.m., with my operations team for our bi-weekly deep clean walkthroughs. Never as a guest. I took an Uber. I couldn't afford valet parking on principle, not because I couldn't pay, but because spending $40 to park felt wasteful when I paid my employees $22 an hour and watched every operational cost. I wore a simple black sheath dress I'd bought at Nordstrom Rack for $89. My shoes were 2-year-old flats, scuffed at the toe. I carried a small purse with my phone, ID, and a credit card. In the lobby, Eleanor stood near the elevators in an emerald silk gown that probably cost $3,000, wearing a Cartier bracelet I recognized from her Instagram. Her fiancé stood beside her, tall, clean-cut, confident in the way people are when they've never doubted their place in the world. My mother saw me first. Her smile froze for half a second before smoothing into something polite and distant. Oh, Rosalind, you came. How nice. My father didn't look at me. I followed them to the private dining room. The private room was elegant. Cream walls, soft lighting, a long table set for 18 with ivory linens and gold-rimmed china. I recognized the setup. Our team had cleaned this room 2 days ago. Eleanor took my arm and pulled me toward two people standing near the bar. Jonathan, Mom, Dad, this is Rosalind, my sister. Jonathan Ashford was 36, sandy-haired, with an easy smile. He shook my hand. Great to finally meet you. Eleanor talks about you. I doubted that, but I smiled. His parents stood beside him. Thomas Ashford, retired judge, silver-haired and patrician, and Catherine Ashford. Catherine was 58, wearing a sharp gray Armani suit and diamond studs. Her handshake was firm. When our eyes met, she held my gaze for 2 seconds longer than necessary. I kept my face neutral. My father cleared his throat. Jonathan, Catherine, Thomas, this is our daughter Eleanor, and this is Rosalind. A pause, just long enough to be noticeable. My mother jumped in quickly. Well, she works. Locally. Catherine's eyes narrowed slightly, but she smiled and released my hand. I took a seat at the far end of the table. Appetizers arrived. Scallops, microgreens, lemon foam. Conversation flowed around me like water around a stone. Eleanor's law firm, Jonathan's merger cases, Thomas's golf game, my mother's volunteer work at the museum. Then someone, a friend of Eleanor's, a blonde woman in Chanel, asked the question, "And Rosalind, what do you do?" The table quieted. My father set down his fork. "Oh, Rosalind. She does cleaning work. Honest work, of course, but we don't really mention her much at these things." Silence. I looked at my water glass. Condensation pooled on the white tablecloth beneath it, a small dark circle spreading slowly. My mother laughed, a nervous high sound. "Rosalind's always been different. Born to serve, I suppose. It's just her way." Eleanor looked down at her plate. Jonathan shifted in his seat. Across the table, Catherine Ashford paused, her fork halfway to her mouth. She set it down slowly. "Cleaning work?" Catherine's voice was calm, but there was something sharp underneath. "What kind of cleaning?" My father waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, you know, hotels, offices, that sort of thing." Catherine turned to me directly. "Which company do you work for?" The room felt smaller suddenly. I met her eyes. I could have lied. I should have lied. But I was so tired of hiding. "I don't work for a company," I said quietly. "I own one, Sterling Facility Services." Dead silence. My father's wine glass stopped midair. Catherine's face changed. Recognition flickered, then something like shock. "Sterling Facility Services," she repeated slowly. "Yes." She leaned forward. "Wait, you're that Rosalind Clark?" "Yes." The room held its breath. Catherine's voice was soft, but every word landed like a stone in still water. "You're the CEO who saved our surgical wing last April." My mother whispered, "What is she talking about?" My father blinked rapidly, the way he did when a student challenged him in class and he didn't have an answer ready. Eleanor stared at me, mouth slightly open. Catherine continued, oblivious to the bomb she was detonating. "We had an infection scare in OR4. The CDC was threatening shutdown. I called Rosalind at 6 a.m. on a Saturday. By 10 a.m., she had a 12-person team on site with hospital-grade disinfectant and a 16-hour deep clean protocol. She saved 3 surgeries that day." She looked at me with something close to admiration. "Maybe saved lives." My father's face went from red to white in 3 seconds. That's not possible." Catherine set down her napkin and turned fully toward my parents, her voice calm but firm. She had the voice of someone used to being heard, not loud, but clear. "Sterling holds our sanitation contract at Mass General. $1.8 million annually, 3-year term, ISO certified, OSHA compliant, bloodborne pathogen trained, one of the best vendors we've ever worked with. She turned to me, her expression warm. I didn't realize you were Jonathan's future sister-in-law. Small world. My mother's champagne glass tilted. Liquid spilled onto the tablecloth, unnoticed. Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. Roz, is this true? I nodded. I started Sterling 7 years ago, I said. My voice was steady. I'd practiced this speech 1,000 times in my head, never thinking I'd actually say it. We have 180 employees. We service hospitals, universities, corporate offices. Mass General is our largest client. Jonathan leaned forward, genuinely curious. How did you, starting a company at 25. I worked housekeeping for 3 years first, I said. Saved every dollar. Took night classes in facilities management, safety compliance, OSHA certification. Started small, grew carefully. Catherine nodded. She's being modest. Last April, we had an infection outbreak risk in OR4, potential multi-drug resistant bacteria. If we couldn't prove complete decontamination within 24 hours, the CDC would have shut down our entire surgical wing. I called Rosalind at 6 a.m. She had a team on site by 10. They worked 16 hours straight. A TP testing came back negative at 2 a.m. We resumed surgeries at 6 a.m. She saved us. My father's chair scraped backward. I need air. He stood and walked out of the room. The table sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then Thomas Ashford, the retired judge, quiet until now, spoke. That's remarkable, Rosalind. Building a company from scratch, especially in such a competitive field. Thank you, I said. My mother's hands were shaking. But why didn't you tell us? I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. I tried, I said quietly. When I started Sterling, I invited you to the office opening. You said you were busy. When I got the Mass General contract, I called. You said, "That's nice, dear," and asked if I'd heard about Eleanor's promotion, so I stopped trying. Eleanor reached for my hand under the table. Her fingers were cold. Roz, it's fine, I said. You all decided a long time ago who I was. I just stopped arguing. Jonathan said carefully, why didn't you correct people? If they assumed. Because they never asked, I said. They told me who I was. We don't mention her. Born to serve. Why would I argue with people who'd already made up their minds? My mother stood abruptly, knocking her chair back slightly. Excuse me. She fled toward the restroom. Catherine looked genuinely distressed. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cause. You didn't cause anything, I said. You told the truth, that's all. Eleanor squeezed my hand hard. Across the table, one of Eleanor's friends, the blonde in Chanel, said quietly, That's actually badass. Someone laughed. The tension cracked slightly. But the elephant remained. My father hadn't come back. Helps, she said gently. I have our helps, she said gently. I have our vendor files here. Would you like to see the contract? Eleanor leaned in. Yes. I met Catherine's eyes and nodded. Show them. She tapped through screens and turned the iPad around. On the screen, a PDF. Massachusetts General Hospital. Facilities Services Agreement. She zoomed in on the signature page. Sterling Facility Services, LLC, Catherine read aloud. Rosalind E. Clark, Chief Executive Officer. Contract value, $1,842,000 over 3 years. Signed November 2022, renewed October 2025. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. Jonathan said quietly, Holy shit. My father reappeared in the doorway. He saw the screen. His face went gray. He sat down hard. Catherine scrolled slowly through the document, narrating like she was presenting evidence in court. Scope of work, daily sanitation of 12 floors, including 4 surgical wings, 3 ICS, and 2 research labs. Emergency response protocols for biohazard cleanup, infection control, and OR deep cleaning. Staff of 42 assigned to Mass General alone, all background checked, CORI cleared, and trained in HIPAA compliance. She looked up. Your daughter runs a tight ship, Dr. Clark. My father said nothing. Eleanor was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Roz, she whispered. 42 people? Just for one contract? 180 total, I said, across all contracts. Catherine swiped to her email inbox and typed Rosalind Clark into the search bar. 47 results. She opened one at random, from April 2025, from Rosalind Clark, Rosalind@sterlingfacility.com, to Catherine Ashford Cashford at Mass General Hospital. Org. Subject, OR4, Deep Clean, Status Update. Date, April 12, 2025, 2:17. AM Catherine. Team deployed at 1000. OR4, Deep Clean complete as of 200. ATP testing negative across all surfaces. Bleach protocol executed per CDC guidelines. Room cleared for use. You're clear to resume surgeries at 6 a.m. RC. Catherine turned the screen toward my parents. 2:17 a.m., she said. That's the kind of vendor you want. The kind who answers at 2 in the morning and doesn't stop until the job is done. Eleanor whispered, You did that? At 2 in the morning? Yes. Alone? No, I had a 12-person team. I don't ask people to do what I won't do myself. I was in OR4 with them, scrubbing. Jonathan, ever the lawyer, pulled out his phone. Do you mind if I... Go ahead, I said. He typed quickly. Rosalind Clark, Sterling, Boston. His eyebrows shot up. Sterling Facility Services, he read aloud from my LinkedIn profile. Founded 2018, CEO, 180 employees, ISO 9001 certified, specializing in healthcare, corporate, and institutional sanitation. Clients include Massachusetts General Hospital, Boston University, Vertex Pharmaceuticals. He scrolled. Boston Business Journal, 40 Under 40, 2024. Featured, Women in Business Leadership. He looked up at me. Roz, this is incredible. My mother returned to the room, eyes red. She'd been crying in the bathroom. When she saw the phone, the iPad, the evidence scattered across the table like playing cards, she sank into her chair. I don't understand, she said. Why didn't you tell us? I set down my fork carefully. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I tried to tell you, I said. 3 years ago, I invited you to our office expansion ribbon cutting. You said you had a faculty dinner. 2 years ago, I sent you the Boston Business Journal article. You texted back, That's nice. Last year, I called to tell you we'd won the Vertex contract. You asked if I'd talk to Eleanor about being a bridesmaid at her first wedding. My mother flinched. So, I stopped trying, I said. You'd decided I was the family embarrassment, the dropout, the maid, and I realized it didn't matter what I built. You'd already made up your minds. My father's voice was hoarse. That's not fair. Isn't it? I looked at him. You told people, we don't mention her. You said I was born to serve. You introduced me to strangers as someone who does cleaning work with the same tone you'd use for someone who'd failed out of rehab. What was I supposed to think? Eleanor was crying now, silently, tears running down her cheeks. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Roz, I'm so sorry. My father pushed his chair back. I can't. I need to leave. He stood, looked at me, looked at the iPad screen still showing my contract, looked at his wife. I can't do this right now. He walked out. This time, he didn't come back. The other guests, Eleanor's friends, a few cousins, began making polite excuses and leaving. The energy had shifted from celebration to something raw and uncomfortable. Catherine approached me as I stood to leave. I'm so sorry, she said quietly. I had no idea I was walking into... You didn't do anything wrong, I said. You told the truth. That's all I've ever wanted. She hugged me, quick, professional, but genuine. You're one of the best vendors I've ever worked with, she said. And from what I just saw, you're one of the strongest people I've ever met. Jonathan shook my hand. I mean this sincerely. If you ever need legal counsel, call me. Pro bono. I almost laughed. Thanks. The room emptied until it was just me, Eleanor, and my mother. My mother sat frozen, staring at the tablecloth. Eleanor stood. Can we talk? Just us? We walked to a quiet corner near the windows. Below, Boylston Street glittered with headlights and street lamps. I'm sorry, Eleanor said, her voice cracked. I'm so sorry, Roz. For what? For everything. For not standing up for you. For letting them erase you. For, she wiped her eyes. I called you the dropout, the disappointment. I told people you were figuring things out like it was a euphemism for failure. But you were the brave one. I didn't say anything. I did everything they wanted, she continued. Columbia, law review, the firm, and I'm miserable half the time. I hate merger law. I hate my boss. I hate that I'm 35 and I've never made a single decision that wasn't pre-approved by someone else. You can still choose differently, I said. She nodded, tears falling. Maybe I will. She hugged me, really hugged me, not the polite half-squeeze we'd done for years. I love you, she whispered. I should have said that more. I know. Me, I said. She looked at me, really me, I said. She looked at me, really looked, and I saw it. She had no idea who I was. Not really. She'd built a version of me in her head, the failure, the embarrassment, and she'd believed it so fully that the real me had become invisible. I don't know if I can, she whispered. Then we have nothing else to talk about. I picked up my purse and walked toward the exit. Rosalind. I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm proud of you. The words hung in the air. I turned. Are you? She nodded, crying. I don't know how to show it. I don't know how to reconcile what I thought with what you are. Figure it out, I said. I'll be here when you do. The Uber driver was a quiet man in his 50s who didn't ask questions when I got in with tears streaming down my face. You okay, miss? Yeah, I said. I will be. Boston blurred past the window. My phone buzzed. Eleanor, please don't give up on us. I know we don't deserve it, but please. I love you. I turned off my phone. I needed silence. I thought I'd feel triumphant, vindicated, finally seen. Instead, I felt hollow. I'd proven I was enough. But I'd lost them anyway. Or maybe I'd never really had them to begin with. Eleanor called Sunday morning. I almost didn't answer. Roz, please, just listen. I listened. Mom and Dad want to talk. There's a brunch at their house this morning. Grandma, Uncle Paul, Aunt Diane, everyone's coming. They know something happened, but they don't know what. Mom asked me to ask you to come. Please. I know you don't owe us anything, but please. I looked at my laptop screen. I had a staffing schedule to finalize, 3 invoices to review, and a safety training session to prep for Monday. Catherine and Thomas are coming too, Eleanor added. I invited them. I thought you'd want backup. That surprised me. Why would they come? Because Catherine called me yesterday and said, your sister deserves witnesses, so I invited them. I closed my laptop. I'll be there. Table was set for 12. Grandma Dorothy table was set for 12. Grandma Dorothy sat at the head, watching everything with sharp eyes. Uncle Paul and Aunt Diane stood by the coffee urn, whispering. Aunt Diane saw me first. Rosalind, Eleanor said there was some misunderstanding at the dinner? Something like that, I said. My father walked in, saw me, froze. His eyes were red. He hadn't slept. Rosalind. Dad. We stood there, 2 strangers in the same room. He gestured toward his study. Can we talk? Privately. I followed him. The study was lined with books, economics, policy, theory. His PhD diploma from M1T hung on the wall. Beside it, photos, Eleanor's graduation, Eleanor's law school acceptance, Eleanor at her first communion. I wasn't in any of them. He closed the door and turned to face me. I looked you up, he said, his voice cracked. Your company, the articles, the contracts. You did this alone. I had help, I said, just not from you. He flinched like I'd hit him. I'm sorry, he said. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough yet, I said. But it's a start. We returned to the dining room. Brunch had started. Bagels, lox, cream cheese, fruit salad, casual conversation. Then Catherine, seated next to Grandma Dorothy, the two of them already deep in conversation, said casually, Rosalind, I was telling Dorothy about the emergency or cleanup in April. She's very impressed. Grandma turned to my father. Edmund, what is Catherine talking about? My father set down his coffee cup carefully. Rosalind owns a company, a very successful one. We didn't know. Grandma's eyes narrowed. Didn't know or didn't ask? Silence. Uncle Paul said, What kind of company? Facilities services, I said. Sanitation for hospitals, universities, corporate clients. How successful? Aunt Diane asked. 180 employees, Catherine said. 12 million in annual revenue. ISO certified. One of our best vendors. Uncle Paul's eyebrows shot up. Rosalind, that's extraordinary. Grandma folded her hands. I always knew that girl had steel in her. My mother stood abruptly. I need to say something. The table quieted. My mother's voice shook. I taught Rosalind that her worth came from a degree and a title. I was wrong. I taught her that intellectual work was superior to manual work. I was wrong about that too. She looked at me. She built something real, something that matters. She employs people who feed their families because of her leadership. And I couldn't see it because I was too busy being ashamed of what I thought she was. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry, Rosalind. I'm so sorry. The table was silent. Eleanor hugged our mother. Catherine reached over and squeezed my hand. I looked at my mother. I forgive you, but I need time. She nodded, crying. I'll wait. Grandma gestured to me. Tell me everything. So I did. I told them about the Marriott, about night classes, about the first contract in Kendall Square, about Carla and Jerome and Amy and the 177 others who worked for me now, about the Mass General contract and the OR4 crisis and working until 2 a.m. to save surgeries. Uncle Paul said, You employ people who depend on you. That's leadership. Aunt Diane said, And you did it without their help. She glanced at my parents. That makes it even more impressive. Catherine added, I've worked with dozens of vendors. Most treat their employees like disposable resources. Rosalind treats hers like family. That's why her company succeeds. My father sat silent through all of it, staring at his untouched bagel. We stored equipment. The training room we stored equipment. The training room where new hires learned safety protocols. The admin floor where my 8 office staff managed scheduling, payroll, contracts, and compliance. He stopped in front of the employee board. 180 faces, names, hire dates. You know all their names? He asked. Everyone. And their kids' names. He touched the edge of a framed contract. I had no idea. I know. We stood in silence. Then he hugged me. First time in 7 years. I'm proud of you, he said. I let him. In mid-December, I invited my parents to Sterling's annual holiday party. My father had the flu and couldn't come. My mother came alone. It was low-key. Employees and their families, pizza and soda. A secret Santa exchange, kids running around. We rented a community center in Dorchester. My mother stood near the wall, watching. Carla, my first hire, now my operations manager, approached her. You're Rosalind's mom? Yes. She's amazing. She paid for my daughter's braces last year. Said it was a performance bonus, but I know it wasn't in the budget. My mother's eyes filled. Later, she pulled me aside. You're a better person than I taught you to be. I shook my head. You taught me more than you know. You taught me what not to do. She laughed, sad but real. Eleanor suggested it. A second Thanksgiving dinner in late December, at my parents' house. A do-over. I agreed on one condition. I could bring 2 employees. I brought Carla and Jerome, both single parents, both with kids. Carla's daughter, Maya, was 7. Jerome's son, Dante, was 9. My mother set extra places without hesitation. My father knelt down to talk to Dante. What do you want to be when you grow up? Dante grinned. Like Ms. Clark, a boss who's nice. My father looked at me. Something broke in his face. Pride, regret, recognition. We ate together, laughed, told stories. It wasn't the family I'd wanted, but it was the family I was building. Eleanor and I cooked side by side, like we used to when we were kids. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For not giving up on us. It's December 20th, 2025 now. Sterling just signed a lease for a second office in Providence, Rhode Island. We're hiring 40 more people. My father calls every Sunday. My mother volunteers at Sterling's Holiday Toy Drive. Eleanor quit her firm and joined a nonprofit doing immigration law, work she actually cares about. It's not perfect, but it's real. For years I believed their story about me, that I wasn't enough, that service was shame. I learned the truth. Service is power when you own it. Leadership doesn't need a stage. My parents measured me by the wrong ruler. Degrees, titles, prestige. But I built something that matters. I employ people who feed their families because of my work. I've saved surgeries. I've helped hospitals stay open. I've created stability for 180 people who depend on me. That's a legacy no diploma can match. I still live modestly. I still drive a Honda. I still show up at 5 a.m. walkthroughs. But now, when I walk into a room, I walk in as myself. Not who they thought I was. Not who they wanted me to be. Just me. And that's enough. If your family has ever underestimated you, if they've measured you by someone else's standards, if they've made you feel invisible, I see you. You're not alone. You don't need their approval to build something real. You just need to start. Share your story in the comments. Let's build a community of people who refuse to stay invisible. Because the quiet ones, we're the ones who change everything.
That's alrighty, mate. It's all good. Just get on with the show. Honestly, I'm in such a good mood. I'm in a better mood than I've been in for I don't actually know how long. So what's everyone up to for the weekend? I wonder what Superman's doing. Got to get on. We've got to get convoyed up with Superman. Alright, the truck's not painted. Ah, whatever. Alright, so let's do this. We may end up putting the convoy back together. I don't know. But for right now, we're going to just get moving and listen to some tunes. Let's go. Do I have a button for that? No. What's this button doing? It's just the dash. What's this one gonna do? I do. Okay, beautiful. I've got that button for that. Alright. For the mirrors. Cruise control, that. The J brake. The exhaust brake, in other words. CB. Alright, let's go. Sorry about that. A little bit of a... So I created another Steam account for some secret squirrel business. You'll all get to see what I'm doing with it soon enough. Anyway, so I got a little confused there, but we're good. Alright, jobs. Okay, hearts in bloom. We've got 7 out of 14 jobs. And I've literally got to get this done. So this is like the Valentine's Day stuff. But I'll just get it done. I would like the people that I want to find out what everyone else is up to. The people that were doing these with me. You know, hopefully we can get it. I kind of disappeared a little bit in the last 24 hours. A little bit. But, you know, I'm hoping everyone's got them done, and if they haven't, I'll help them out. Where are the Valentine's Day ones? Here we go, here's one.